If I had known Tuesday was going to be the last perfect day of my marriage, I probably would have taken the trash out without grumbling. We were still joking in the kitchen that morning, Tiffany balancing a travel mug on her head while brushing on mascara. She said she was late for work, as usual, and asked if I could grab some dry cleaning for her. I gave her a quick peck on the forehead, not lips, because apparently lipstick ruins shirt collars. Even that felt normal. Routine. She left in a swirl of lavender and a half-closed front door. I remember standing there in the quiet for a second, sipping my coffee, and thinking, man, I love this woman. I even texted her, weird morning thought, I'd still marry you all over again. She didn't respond. Not unusual. She's a CPA, tax season is basically her Super Bowl. But now, looking back, the silence feels heavier. Like something was already shifting under the surface, waiting to crack open. We've been married almost 7 years, no kids, decent house in northern Ohio, and enough mutual friends to fill a high school auditorium. I worked in logistics at a manufacturing company, mostly remote, which meant I was around the house a lot more than she was. She liked it that way. Gives us balance, she used to say. That night, she came home with a bottle of red wine and told me she was up for a date night. Said she'd booked us a private pottery class that Friday. I laughed because she hated getting messy, but she insisted she was trying new things. That phrase stuck with me later, trying new things. The rest of that week was solid. Better than solid. Her energy had changed in a good way, I thought. She was more affectionate, more curious about my day. She even left a post-it on my laptop one afternoon. You worked too hard. Let's get lost this weekend. Smiley face. Little heart. Yeah, I kept that note. Pathetic, I know. Then Sunday came. She said she had a training seminar downtown. Weird for a weekend, but okay. She left early, took the car, said she'd be back by 5. At 5:30, she texted, running late. Just grabbing a drink with the team. Love you. At 8:15, nothing. By 9 o'clock, she finally walked in, looking flushed and annoyed, like I had done something wrong. I asked how the seminar went, and she gave me a vague, it was fine, while unstrapping her heels and going straight to the shower. I told myself not to be dramatic, not to spiral. You don't stay married for 7 years by interrogating your spouse every time they come home late smelling like gin and someone else's cologne. Still, that was the first time I felt it, that cold weight in the pit of my stomach. The one that tells you the rules of the game have changed and no one bothered to tell you. Then Monday came, and with it, a delivery. For her. Now, Tiffany rarely gets packages. She's the anti-Amazon shopper. So when the big white box showed up from a company I didn't recognize, some startup name like Alto Atlas or North and Grain, I was curious. I left it by the table for her to open, but she didn't. Not that night, or the next. She moved it to the closet and acted like it didn't exist. Now listen, I'm not the snooping type. I don't read her texts, don't peek in her purse, don't track her car. I wasn't raised like that. But that box? That box sat there like a time bomb with a silent countdown. I asked her about it on Wednesday. She just shrugged. It's a sample from a vendor. Nothing interesting. Except Tiffany doesn't have vendors. She's a CPA, not a product manager. I wanted to press, but she was already halfway down the hall, calling over her shoulder, "Can you drop it at the office if I forget it tomorrow?" That night, she was extra sweet again. Dinner, candles, even a massage. Said she was sorry she'd been distant lately, that the tax season was just hitting harder than expected. And for the second time that week, she told me she loved me out of the blue. I believed her. Thursday, I dropped off the box. Or tried to. That's when the first crack in the story appeared. And once it did, it started unraveling fast. Friday morning, I was running late. The box, the same unopened one Tiffany had brushed off, was sitting right in front of the front door like it had walked there overnight. Subtle, right? I scooped it up and tossed it into the back of my truck. The address she gave me was handwritten on a sticky note. Alto Atlas Consulting. Suite 7A. Drop at front desk. Only one problem. I've lived in this town all my life. I know every office park within a 30-mile radius. I'd never heard of Alto Atlas Consulting. But maybe it was new. Maybe it was some shell LLC a client had set up. Who knows? Still, something about it itched at the back of my neck. I drove out to the address, one of those mid-rise brick buildings off Franklin and Eastwood. You've seen a million of them, a chiropractor on the first floor, some law office above it. Half the tenants never bothered to put a sign on the directory. Inside, the lobby was quiet and too clean. That sterile kind of clean you only find in dentist offices and broken marriages. I walked over to the tenant directory. No Alto Atlas. I looked again. Suite 7A? That wasn't even listed. So I walked down the hall. Suite 7A was there. All right. No signage. Door closed. Lights off. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. At this point, curiosity had escalated into suspicion with a side of adrenaline. I pulled out my phone, Googled Alto Atlas Consulting Ohio. No results. No business license. Not even a LinkedIn profile. Come on, if you don't exist on LinkedIn in 2025, you don't exist. Period. Now the box is burning a hole in my hands. I flip it over. It's sealed with industrial tape. No return address. No branding. Just a shipping label with Tiffany's name and our home address. I left the building, sat in my truck, and stared at the box for a good 5 minutes. I wasn't planning to open it. I wasn't going to be that guy. Then I opened it. It was the dumbest and smartest thing I've done in years. Inside, 2 things. A black hardback notebook and a single gray folder with a silver elastic band. That's it. I know, sounds harmless. Except the notebook had her name engraved on it, Tiffany Grant, in small serif font, and the folder had a printed label on the front. Coaching materials, Week 5. Vulnerability and intimacy exercises. That's when I knew. Because Tiffany doesn't coach anyone. She's a numbers person. Spreadsheets, deductions, audits. She's a wizard at tracking expenses, not emotions. But even before I opened the folder, I knew. My gut was already screaming. Inside the folder were printed worksheets. I flipped through. List 3 fears you have around emotional transparency and romantic partnerships. Create a shared playlist with your partner that represents your emotional evolution together. Schedule a 90-minute digital detox date and reflect afterward using the prompts below. These weren't business documents. These were therapy exercises. Relationship-building ones. The kinds of things people do at couples retreats. Every page had a header, Alto Atlas Private Sessions, Week 5. One line near the bottom of the first page made my stomach twist into a knot. Your coach this week is Mark. Just Mark. No last name. But someone was getting real cozy with my wife. Real personal. And it wasn't through any IRS audit. Still, no definitive proof of anything. Until I turned the last page. There was a sticky note. Her handwriting. Mark, the hike idea sounds perfect. Let's do Sunday morning. Don't forget your old camera. I want to see your moody artist side again winking face, T. That was it. That was the moment. The handwriting I'd memorized from birthday cards and grocery lists. The smiley with the little swoop under it, she always did that. Always. I sat there in the cab of my truck, the box open on my lap, my heart pounding like a drumline. I wasn't angry yet. I was outside myself, watching this unfold like it was someone else's life. Some other idiot husband who dropped off boxes without asking questions. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I put everything back in the box, resealed it best I could with a roll of masking tape I had in the glove compartment, and drove straight home. When I walked in, Tiffany was in yoga pants and a college hoodie, barefoot, reading her Kindle on the couch like she didn't just nuke our marriage. She looked up. Did you drop it off? I kept my voice flat. Yup. Thanks, babe. You're a lifesaver. She kissed my cheek. I felt it like acid. That night, I started testing things. Small tests. Just to see if she'd lie again. I asked what Alto Atlas was. Client's shell company, she said casually, not even blinking. They're weirdly secretive about their financials. I nodded, like that made sense. On Saturday, I said I was meeting friends at the driving range. I wasn't. I parked outside the building on Franklin and watched the door to Suite 7A. At 10:47 a.m., Tiffany walked in. Alone. At 11:12 a.m., a man followed her in. Mid-40s. Long hair tied back. Flannel shirt. Carried an old Nikon camera. Mark. He looked like every cliché of a guy named Mark who runs emotional coaching workshops and has opinions about Pinot Noir. They stayed inside for almost 2 hours. When they came out, she was smiling like she hadn't in months. He put his hand on the small of her back. Not long. Just enough. And here's where things got clever on my part. I didn't follow them. I didn't chase anything. I went home and logged on to her laptop. I wasn't looking for texts or emails. Tiffany's smarter than that. What I looked for was her browser history. She'd cleared it. Again, she's smart, but not smart enough to clear the cache. And that's where I struck gold. 3 bookmarked files in her downloads folder. All PDFs. Alto Atlas _ couples program _ outline.pdf. Mark _ bio _ intro.pdf. Week 3 _ prompt _ creating _ safe _ space.pdf. I opened Mark's bio. Apparently, he used to be a sculptor. Of course he did. Now he curates intimacy experiences for high-performance women seeking depth outside traditional romantic structures. Translation: he seduces married women who feel ignored. Now I was angry. Not just because she cheated, that's bad enough, but because she did it with someone who uses words like curates intimacy experiences. That's just disrespectful on another level. I spent that whole night at my desk planning. Not a screaming match. Not a guilt trip. No begging. No whyam. Tears. No. I was going to hit her where she lived. And I knew exactly how. She had no idea what was coming. But I was going to make sure Mark never forgot the name Lucas Grant. And neither would she. It was Sunday when I made my move. She'd mentioned earlier in the week that she'd be taking a nature day, one of those new age buzzwords she picked up from Mark, probably. Hiking, journaling, unplugging. All that performative soul-searching that sounds deep, but usually just means I'm sneaking around behind my husband's back. I said, "Go clear your head. You deserve it." Real calm. She smiled like I'd handed her a free pass to keep lying to me. And just like that, she left the house in her oversized flannel and hiking boots she hadn't worn in 4 years. She brought her camera, too, the one I got her for our 3rd anniversary. The irony was rich. She said something about wanting to reconnect with the simplicity of being outdoors. I said, "Don't forget sunscreen." She kissed me. Again on the cheek. I closed the door behind her and locked it, not to keep her out, just to have the moment to myself. Now, I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I already knew where she was going, the same hiking trail where she and Mark had gone last weekend, right before their intimacy journaling session, which I learned about through a PDF she apparently forgot she downloaded to her laptop. Mark's calendar, which was public for some reason, these emotional guru types never think someone like me can use a browser, showed a deep connection experience, booked for Sunday from 10 to noon. Real subtle, Mark. At 10:30 sharp, I drove downtown. Not to the trail, that would have been theatrical and stupid, but to a building on the corner of South Avenue and Ashburn. Everett and Rowe, tax professionals. Tiffany's actual office. She'd left her work laptop there on Friday. Lucky me, I still had the spare key to the building from last year when we were setting up her office holiday party. She didn't even remember. I parked in the alley, walked through the back door, and went straight into her office. It took less than 5 minutes to access her email. She was the kind of person who used the same password for everything. Our wedding date, no caps, no special characters. Romantic and dumb. And there it was. An inbox full of invoices, expense reports, and one email chain labeled AA Client Resources. AA, of course, stood for Alto Atlas. I clicked. Read. Turns out she wasn't just a participant. She'd been paying for a 1:1 emotional guidance package, premium tier. 12 sessions. $3,000. Paid in installments, of course. Financial coaching through feelings. What a racket. But that wasn't the important part. The important part was the calendar invite from Mark, dated 2 weeks ago, confirming their off-site intimacy immersion scheduled for Sunday today. The invite location? A rental cabin off Route 68. Not a hotel, not a retreat center. Just a private VRBO. Now it was personal. I printed the email. Just one page. Then I went to my next destination. Her sister's house. Maya was the closest thing Tiffany had to a conscience. Younger, more grounded, and fiercely loyal, but not blindly. I showed up at her door with coffee and that one printout. "Lucas," she said, frowning. "What are you doing here? Tiff said you were out today." "Yep. Just came by to drop something off. Mind if I sit?" She let me in. I gave her the page. She read it once, then again. Her expression changed from confused to stunned to pissed. "Wait, she's sleeping with this guy?" I shrugged. "You tell me." "Oh my God," she muttered, putting a hand over her mouth. She said she was seeing a coach, but I thought it was, like, for her stress or something. I didn't know. She stopped, realizing what this meant. "Does she know you know?" "Nope," I said, sipping my coffee. "Not yet." She blinked. "So why are you here?" "Because you're gonna help me." She narrowed her eyes. "With what?" I smiled. "Confrontation. In style." She stared at me for a beat. Then she nodded. "Okay. What do you need?" By 3 p.m., Tiffany was home, glowing like she'd spent the day in a meadow doing yoga poses for Instagram. I was on the couch, pretending to nap. She came in quietly, dropped her backpack by the kitchen counter, and tiptoed over to kiss me awake. "Hey," she whispered. I opened my eyes and smiled. "Hey, good hike." She smiled back. "Yeah, it was really peaceful. Exactly what I needed." I sat up slowly. "Awesome. I actually had a peaceful day too. Caught up on laundry. Cleaned out the garage." "Oh," and I saw Maya. She paused. "Oh, everything okay?" "Totally." She asked if we wanted to come over next weekend for her birthday thing. Tiffany relaxed. "Sure, that sounds nice." I leaned back, crossed my arms. She also gave me this. I pulled the email printout from behind a cushion and laid it on the table in front of her like a royal flush. She stared at it. Didn't blink. Didn't speak. Just froze. It was the exact reaction I'd rehearsed in my head. Shock, confusion, then that flicker of calculation behind the eyes, the one that says, "Can I still spin this?" When she looked up, I said, "Care to explain your premium tier soul coaching getaway with Mark? Or should I just ask him directly?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She looked down at the paper, then up at me, then back down. You could see the gears grinding. I didn't mean for it to. No, I cut in. "Stop. Don't." Her mouth snapped shut. I kept going. I knew something was off, Tiff. The box, the fake consulting firm, the sticky notes with winks. You think I wouldn't notice? You think I wouldn't look into a business that doesn't exist on Google? She looked panicked now. "Lucas, it wasn't just, it's not. I wasn't trying to hurt you." "That's exactly what people say when they already did," I said, standing up. "But you know what the worst part is?" She shook her head. "It's not that you cheated. It's that you made me feel crazy for noticing. That you lied to my face like I was some clueless idiot with a tax refund and a ring." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to blow up our life." I smiled, tight. "Well, too late." She took a step forward. "Lucas, please." "No," I said sharply. "You don't get to talk right now. Here's what's going to happen." She froze. "You're going to stay here tonight in the guest room. I'll be gone in the morning. You'll get a letter from my lawyer by Tuesday. I already found a place. I'm not interested in sharing a roof with someone who thinks emotional coaching is a loophole for sleeping with a washed-up artist who probably cries during Radiohead albums." She gasped. "You went through my laptop?" "No," I said. "I went through my own computer. The one you borrowed last week and forgot to log out of. Don't worry, I didn't touch your sacred spreadsheet of business deductions." She sat down, stunned. I didn't think you'd find out." I raised an eyebrow. "Of course you didn't. That's what makes it cheating. You don't cheat on people you think are paying attention." Silence. "Was it worth it?" I asked. She looked away. That was answer enough. I walked toward the door. "Oh, and one more thing," I added. "Tell Mark I'll see him soon." Then I left. Because confrontation isn't just about calling someone out. It's about letting them sit with it. Marinate in it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I made sure she felt what I felt, not rage, but realization. And it worked. Because I saw it in her face as I closed the door. She didn't think I had it in me. She does now. By Monday morning, I was out of the house. Not because I was the one who did anything wrong. I just didn't want to breathe the same air as her anymore. I didn't want to hear her soft footsteps in the hall like nothing happened. I didn't want to see her fiddling with her tea in the kitchen like she hadn't nuked our marriage while whispering intimacy prompts to a guy with a man bun. So I left her in the echo of her choices. I'd rented a furnished short-term apartment 3 miles away. Not far, just far enough that I didn't have to accidentally spot her at the grocery store or hear her pull into the driveway like she still belonged there. It had everything I needed: fast Wi-Fi, decent coffee, and a view of the city skyline that didn't include a liar. Now, I know what you might be thinking: revenge? Isn't that petty? No, it's necessary. Because what people never talk about is the space between discovering the betrayal and signing the divorce papers. That's where the real reckoning happens. It's not in the yelling or the crying, it's in the planning. And I had a plan. I didn't want her to suffer in some loud, public way. That would have been too easy. She'd have just played the victim card to her yoga friends and rewritten the story in her head until she believed she was the brave one who found herself. No, what I wanted was quiet. Specific. Personal. I wanted her to lose the one thing she never saw coming. Her image. You see, Tiffany thrived on perception. She wasn't flashy, but she curated her life like an Instagram grid. Polished. Perfect. Thoughtful but spontaneous. The kind of woman who left just enough mess on her coffee table to look human, but never actually lost control of anything. She'd built a brand, the successful, composed, emotionally enlightened version of herself that existed in her social circle and professional world. And I was going to ruin that. Not with rumors. Not with trashy Facebook rants. With receipts. Real ones. First step? A friend of mine named Jess. Jess and I went to college together. She's a publicist now, one of those behind-the-scenes miracle workers who can make a scandal disappear before the first tweet hits trending. Or, more importantly, make one stick if someone crosses the wrong person. I called her Monday night. Told her everything. Sent over the Alto Atlas emails, the fake consulting story, the signed coaching contracts, the journal pages Tiffany had stupidly emailed to her own work address. It took Jess maybe 15 minutes to understand the full situation. This guy Mark, she said, scanning the files, does he have a business license? Not that I can find. And he's sleeping with clients? From what I can tell, yeah. Tiffany wasn't his first either. Jess was quiet for a moment. That's unethical as hell. It's also excellent leverage. Exactly what I thought. She continued, you want to go public? No, I said. I want Tiffany to think it might go public. I heard the smile in her voice. You want her to feel the heat without ever getting burned. Bingo. We crafted a series of anonymous emails, not threatening, not hostile, just informative. One went to the HR department at the accounting firm Tiffany worked at. Another went to her firm's ethics committee inbox. Just a clean little packet. Links to her intimacy worksheets, the cabin booking invoice. Yep, got that too. And a short note explaining she was engaging in extramarital emotional therapy sessions during business hours with an unlicensed coach using company time and resources. We sent them mid-morning on Tuesday, perfect timing, right before the HR team's weekly stand-up. Then we waited. Wednesday afternoon, Maya texted me. What did you do? I replied, what she deserves. Tiffany called that night. I didn't answer. Thursday, I went one step further. I created a profile on a consumer review platform, the kind that lawyers and consultants dread. I posted a calm, anonymous review of Mark's services. Nothing exaggerated, just factual. That he conducted intimacy coaching sessions with married women, billed under fake LLCs, and engaged in non-therapeutic physical intimacy with at least one client that I knew of. It didn't need to go viral. It just needed to exist. By Friday, Tiffany was unraveling. I know this because Maya started sending me screenshots, not to gossip, but to prepare me. Tiffany was texting their friend group in panic. One message read, someone is trying to destroy my career. I think it's Lucas. Please don't believe anything you hear. It's a smear job. Another. Mark is talking about legal action, but I'm telling him to stay calm. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm allowed to have a life. Then one from Mark himself, which she'd forwarded to Maya in full panic. I'm not sure we should keep seeing each other right now. I need to figure some stuff out. This might affect my business. And just like that, the intimacy sculptor ghosted her. Perfect. Now, I didn't stop there. I had one more piece to play. Tiffany was obsessive about her reputation. Every year, she put together a holiday newsletter for friends and family. You know the type. Full humble stories about her job promotions, book club wins, travel pics, and gratitude reflections. I never cared much for it, but this year, I decided to make a contribution. I wrote a version of the newsletter myself. Short, sincere, nothing scandalous. Just a reflection of what really happened. This year brought unexpected clarity. Sometimes, the person you trust the most teaches you who they really are, not with honesty, but with secrecy. And when that happens, you can either break, or you can wake up. I signed it Lucas, and mailed a hard copy to her entire list. Every person in our shared social world, her coworkers, her cousins, her 2 yoga instructors, even her book club friends in Seattle. All of them. She couldn't call it an attack. There was no lie in it. No accusation. Just a controlled narrative from the other side. By Saturday, she called again. Twice. I still didn't answer. She sent a text. Can we please talk? And another. I didn't expect this from you. I finally replied. I didn't expect any of this from you. So I guess we're even. No response after that. No apology, either. She probably still thought she had the moral high ground. That she was exploring her truth while I was playing dirty. But that's the thing about people like Tiffany. They mistake consequences for cruelty. I didn't scream at her. I didn't hack her accounts. I didn't torch her clothes or post rants online. I just removed the mask she wore and held it up to the people she used to fool. She told Mark once that she wanted to feel seen. Well, now she is. And I still haven't raised my voice. That's the thing about revenge. It doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be accurate and personal. Exactly like betrayal. Tiffany didn't knock. She used her key. I heard the soft rattle of the lock around 8:20 p.m. on a Monday. I was in the kitchen, halfway through a reheat of some leftover chicken stir-fry, when the front door creaked open and her voice followed behind it like nothing had happened. Lucas. I didn't answer right away. Just finished plating my dinner. I knew she was going to show up eventually. The texts were coming in daily now. All variations of the same message. Can we please talk? You're being unfair. We need to fix this before it gets worse. What she really meant was, before people start believing your version of the story. She appeared in the doorway a few seconds later. Same hairstyle. No makeup. Wearing a soft gray hoodie I vaguely recognized as one of mine. That old tactic, dressing down to look vulnerable. The damaged of routine. I pulled a chair out at the small kitchen table and gestured toward the one across from me. Sit, if you're going to talk. She sat. Quietly. Like she was walking into a doctor's office, not the aftermath of her own choices. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Just the sound of a fork scraping a plate. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was just hungry. Divorce planning burns a lot of calories. Finally, she started. I didn't come to fight. Didn't expect you to. I feel like everything exploded all at once. I wanted to talk to you before it all got out of control. It didn't get out of control, I said, setting down my fork. It was out of control. You just didn't know I knew. Her face tightened. I never meant to hurt you, Lucas. I smiled. You did, though. She blinked. And not just with Mark, I added. That was just the headline. It was all the other stuff. The lies. The performance. Making me feel like I was crazy for noticing what changed. Tiffany looked down. I didn't think you'd notice. I nodded. That's the part that stings the most. She paused, trying to find her footing. Can I just say what I need to say? I leaned back. Go for it. She inhaled. This wasn't supposed to happen. I signed up for Alto Atlas because I thought it would help me help us. I felt disconnected, Lucas. For months. Maybe even years. And you were so focused on work and routines and, I don't know, your comfort, that I felt like I was disappearing. And Mark made you feel seen, I said flatly. She nodded. Yes, he did. I'm not proud of how far it went. But it wasn't just about intimacy. Don't care, I said, cutting her off. I know it wasn't. That's what makes it worse. She looked startled. What do you mean? If it had just been a physical thing, maybe I could chalk it up to impulse. But this. I tapped the table. This was curated. You build a whole alternate world with him. Journals. Sessions. Cabin trips. You chose it. Over and over again. Her voice cracked. I didn't expect to lose you. No one ever does, I said. Because people like you think they can have both. Tiffany winced. I stood, walked to the sink, and poured myself a glass of water. Let the silence stretch. When I turned back, she was crying quietly. I didn't rush to comfort her. I wasn't there to soothe guilt. I'm sorry, she said, finally. I mean it. I know you do, I said. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry for what it cost. Her lip trembled. That's not fair. No, it's extremely fair, I said. You're sorry now because it's real. Because Mark bailed the second things got messy. Because your job might be in jeopardy. Because people don't look at you the same way anymore. That's not, she started. You're not sorry because you hurt me, I said calmly. You're sorry because I made sure you couldn't control the fallout. Her eyes met mine. Did you really mean to ruin me? I didn't flinch. No. I meant for you to live in the truth. For once. She nodded slowly, accepting it. Then, like clockwork, she played her last card. Do you think there's any way back from this? I gave a dry laugh. You mean for us? She nodded. No, I said. There's no back to go to. Her shoulders dropped. But, I added, there is a forward. She perked up slightly, confused. We're going to finalize the divorce, I continued. Amicably, if you can handle that. You'll get a clean exit. No public drama. No court scenes. I already have a lawyer who'll draw it up. She swallowed. Okay. You can keep the house, I said. I don't want it. Just buy me out of my share. Use Mark's self-actualization budget if he hasn't burned it all on flannel shirts. She didn't laugh. And when people ask what happened, tell them the truth, I said. Tell them you lost a husband who loved you because you wanted to feel interesting. She exhaled. Is that really what you think? I know it is, I said. You weren't bored with me. You were bored with yourself. You just didn't want to admit it. So you found someone who told you were a galaxy, and I guess I was just gravity. That one hit. I saw it land. I don't hate you, I added. I just see you now. Really see you. And I'm not looking away anymore. She stood slowly, unsure of what to do. Part of her was still hoping for a twist ending. That I'd hug her. Say we'd work through it. That I'd forget everything as long as she looked small enough. But I didn't move. I'll have Maya drop off your key, she said, her voice thin. Appreciate it. She reached for the doorknob, then hesitated. If you ever need anything, I won't, I said gently. She opened the door, stepped out, then paused once more. I did love you, Lucas, she said. I nodded. I know. Then she closed the door behind her. And just like that, the weight left the room. Not because things were okay, but because they were done. I didn't cry that night. I didn't rage or replay the conversation 100 times. I just sat with the silence. Not empty, just clear. I realized something then. You don't always get justice in the way you want it. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let someone see the mirror and walk away before they ask you to clean it for them. She saw it. That's enough. 6 weeks after Tiffany walked out of my kitchen and closed the door behind her, the divorce was finalized. It didn't end in a courtroom. No slamming gavels, no closing arguments, no surprise witnesses. Just a few signatures, a couple of notary stamps, and an envelope with final documents. I dropped it in the mailbox on a rainy Tuesday morning, and that was that. 7 years of marriage, reduced to 6 pages and a line that read, irreconcilable differences. I always hated that phrase. It made it sound like we were two people who couldn't decide on which couch to buy. Not two people where one decided emotional fraud was preferable to honesty. But hey, paperwork doesn't need to tell the truth. That's my job now. The thing about betrayal, real, personal betrayal, is that it doesn't end when the relationship does. It echoes. For days, weeks, months. It's not the dramatic pain that gets you. It's the quiet moments, making 1 cup of coffee instead of 2. Not hearing her laugh from the other room while watching some terrible reality show. The little absences that remind you of how much space someone used to take up. But there's a flip side to that. Eventually, those absences stop hurting. Eventually, they feel like air. It started slowly. A new morning routine. I got up earlier, ran 3 miles before breakfast, not because I was trying to glow up or whatever half-baked revenge body nonsense people expect after a breakup. I just needed to sweat out the static in my head. Then I'd read a chapter of something before logging in for work. Fiction, nonfiction, it didn't matter. Just something not written by a man named Mark. I started going to a local trivia night on Thursdays. Nothing special, just a dive bar down on State Street where the bartender knows your name after the second visit and the prizes are usually a free beer or a t-shirt 2 sizes too small. I went alone the first few times. Then I started getting to know the regulars. There was Dan, a middle school science teacher with a freakish knowledge of 1980s movie soundtracks. There was Zoe, an ER nurse with a sharp wit and a laugh that sounded like someone breaking glass on purpose. No, I didn't date anyone. Not yet. I wasn't looking for a rebound or some scripted emotional arc where the new woman saves the day. I didn't need to be saved. I just needed to not be pitted. People assume the cheated-on spouse gets stuck in some tragic limbo, like you're either broken forever or plotting some dramatic comeback. But real healing is boring. It's doing the dishes at night without the weight in your chest. It's changing your phone wallpaper because you're not scared of what used to be on it. It's standing in line at the grocery store and realizing you're not scanning the crowd anymore, hoping to bump into her, hoping she sees you thriving. It's realizing you don't care if she does. Maya texted me once about 3 weeks after the final paperwork was in. Tiff said you were cold in the end. Just thought you should know. I read it, then turned off my phone for the rest of the night. Cold? Let's talk about cold. Cold is pretending to fix a marriage while building an emotional affair under a fake business name. Cold is asking your husband to drive a box to an address that doesn't exist so you can sneak off to a rented cabin with a man who talks about emotional currency like it's a stock option. Cold is acting like betrayal is just a form of personal growth that your spouse wasn't enlightened enough to join you in. No, I wasn't cold. I was done. But let her think I was. That story works for her circle. Easier to paint me as the emotionally stunted logistics guy who couldn't go deep than admit she shattered the thing she claimed to cherish. That's fine. Everyone needs a narrative. Mine just happens to be true. The Alto Atlas site went dark about a month ago. I checked once, not out of obsession, but curiosity. Gone. The landing page is a dead link now. No moody black and white portraits, no intimacy coaching packages, no curated testimonials from women who wanted to feel seen. I imagine Mark's career took a hit. Guess it's hard to sell emotional transparency when your top client's husband leaks your whole playbook. I never heard from Mark. Not once. No email, no call, no cease and desist letter. Coward. But you know what? I'm glad. I wasn't looking for a showdown. He's not worth it. The real confrontation already happened, not in a cabin or a lawyer's office, but in a kitchen, over a plate of reheated chicken and a conversation that made it very, very clear. I wasn't going to play the role of the quietly destroyed husband. I was going to be the guy who walked away with his spine intact. People kept asking, "How are you doing?" in that tight, concerned tone, like they were preparing for the polite lie. You know the one. I'm fine. It's been hard, but I'm getting through it. All that performative resilience people expect. But I didn't perform. I said what I felt. I'm doing better without her. It shocked them. People want to see grief in neat stages. They want the arc: sadness, anger, healing, forgiveness. But real life doesn't always need the last part. Forgiveness is optional. Sometimes you just move on without dragging forgiveness behind you like a badge. I don't hate Tiffany. I don't wish her harm. I don't wish her anything. She's just someone I used to know very well, and then, very suddenly, not at all. And that's okay. We were a good story for a while. But when the plot twisted, she wrote a new one and forgot to tell me. So I finished mine. And it ends here. No fireworks. No reunions. No dramatic monologue on a rainy doorstep. Just peace. Just me. One morning last week, I brewed coffee and sat on my new balcony. Not big, not fancy, but it gets good sunlight in the morning. I didn't think about her. I thought about the sky, and how quiet it was, and how good that felt. End of story. Subscribe to the channel